You know that feeling, right? That overwhelming urge that comes from deep inside you? A force that can push you to create something incredible. But on another day, fuels your absolute worst anger. Well, today, we're going to dig into a powerful, ancient concept that just might explain it.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? We're going to explore this wild paradox of being human, this idea that there's a single primal source for both our inner genius and, well, our inner demon.
So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off by defining what the daimonic even is. Then we'll take a quick trip through its fascinating history. After that, we'll see how modern psychology tackles it, really unpack its two-sided nature, and then, the important part, figure out how we can actually live with this powerful force inside us.
All right, first things first. What in the world are we even talking about when we say the word daimonic?
This idea, put into words by psychologist Rollo May, is pretty profound. The daimonic isn't just a mood, it's not a passing feeling. It is a fundamental drive, like a raw piece of the life force itself. It's in everything, pushing every living thing to become more of what it is. You know, think of an acorn's relentless drive to become a mighty oak. That's the same kind of energy in us, pushing us to become fully ourselves.
Okay, and this is a really important point to get straight right away. The daimonic is not the demonic. I know, the words sound similar, but they are worlds apart. The original Greek idea of the daimon was totally neutral. It was just a primal force that could swing either way, creative or destructive. The demonic, on the other hand, is what we now think of as pure outside evil. The key here is that the daimonic, that's part of us.
And you know, this idea isn't some new age concept, not at all. It is absolutely ancient. So let's take a quick look at how it's changed over time.
So, way back, it started as something totally external. For the Minoans, daemons were like spiritual helpers for the gods. Homer used the word when he talked about some kind of divine intervention. But watch what happens around 500 BC. Socrates starts talking about his daemon as a personal, guiding voice inside him. And then Heraclitus, he takes it one giant step further and brings it completely inside.
And this quote, this is the game changer. With Heraclitus, the daimon is no longer some outside force messing with you. It becomes woven into the very fabric of your character. Your inner nature, your personal ethos, that is your guiding spirit. That is your fate. And this idea totally set the stage for how psychology would pick it up thousands of years later.
Okay, let's fast forward a couple of millennia. The existential psychologist Rollo May grabs this ancient idea and puts it right at the center of his work on the modern human psyche.
I mean, how powerful and direct is that definition? Just think about it. The feeling of being so overwhelmingly in love that you can't think straight, or being seized by an uncontrollable rage, or that creative spark that's so intense you can't sleep. That is the daimonic at work. It's a totally natural part of you, but it swells up with enough power to hijack your entire system.
And the scope of it is just staggering. It's archetypal, meaning it's a built-in, universal part of being human. I mean, just look at this list. It's a who's who of our most powerful urges. The drive to love and create life is right there, side by side with the capacity for rage and the thirst for power. The most crucial point is this. Our best and our worst sides, they spring from the exact same well inside of us. So this brings us right to the core of it all. How can one single force have two phases that are so completely, radically different? Okay, let's look at the positive side first. When we work with the daimonic in a constructive way, it becomes the very source of what we might call our genius.
This is the daimon, as your inner guide, your biggest cheerleader. It's that unshakable gut feeling that you have a purpose, a calling you need to follow. It's the spark behind every great work of art, every leap in science, every personal journey of finding out who you really are. It's the force that pushes us toward what the psychologist Carl Jung called individuation, becoming fully and completely ourselves.
But, and this is a huge but, if you flip that coin over, that exact same energy can become the source of our complete and utter ruin. And this is where it gets really dangerous. When that daimonic energy is ignored or repressed or just left to run wild, it turns toxic. It becomes the engine of rage, obsession, violence. It's the same power, but instead of building us up, it tears us, and sometimes the people around us, apart. It becomes that inner demon driving us straight toward destruction. So if this force is so powerful and so potentially dangerous, what are we supposed to do with it? Let's get practical. How do we live with this thing?
This right here is probably the most important takeaway of this whole explainer. Trying to fight this force, trying to kill it or push it down, is a massive mistake. Psychologists like May and Jung were very clear about this. Repressing it doesn't make it disappear. It just goes into the basement, works out, and comes back stronger and way more likely to explode. The only healthy way forward is integration.
So how do we do that? Well, you can think of it as a 4-step process. First, you just have to acknowledge it. Recognize this is a real power inside you. Second, you got to listen to it. Pay attention to those deep, nagging urges. They're often clues pointing you toward your true path. Third, and this is the really hard part, integrate. You have to consciously accept your capacity for both good and bad. That's what builds a truly strong self. And finally, the goal is to become the master of this energy, not its slave, to turn it from a wild force into a power you can use consciously.
Look, this is not an easy path. It takes real courage to face the messy, overwhelming, and sometimes scary parts of ourselves. But the payoff is immense. A life that isn't just more creative and authentic, but one that feels whole and deeply, deeply meaningful.
And so we end with a question for you. After hearing all of this, what is that deep, irrepressible urge that lives inside of you? What is it pushing you to create, to change, to become? That's your daemon talking. The only question left is, are you brave enough to listen?